Yeah, so I've been here for 1 minute and everybody's mad at me.
No, you haven't
No
been
one's
here for one
no
minute.
one's
The
mad at
problem is
you.
you were late. You were late.
Yeah, I
Gabe was very concerned. Rodney is never late.
Like
Maybe something has
5:30,
happened.
came
I'm
and
gonna
went,
text him.
and I was like,
Like
"Where is Rodney? This is not how this
yeah.
works."
he actually was just worried about having to be alone with me and that he was going to be the only target for my ire.
We were running
And
out of
now
stuff to talk about already.
Yeah, I mean a couple
we
things
had
going
talked
on there.
about one thing and that was it. That was all that
Yeah.
was on the agenda.
So, I showed up early. Well, we talked a couple weeks ago with Jake, and
Mhm.
we showed up early, and that caused all kinds of problems, right? We had this discussion that we don't normally have ahead of time, and I forgot to ask you about your background, and you were in like so then today I explicitly like 10 minutes ago, I was like, I'm not gonna jump on yet. I'll wait. And then when I went to jump on, I had a Teams invite, so I clicked on the Teams
Why
meeting.
was
Team.
it a
What
Teams invite? Like
what
this is what's
Teams invite did you
baffling to
have?
me.
I
You
don't
didn't
know.
get anything from me that said Teams on it. I'm just gonna look right now
I
just
just
to double check.
I'm not saying that you're lying, but like also I'm saying that I didn't get a Teams invite, so I'm not really sure what you did.
Hmm. No.
Like
Yeah.
mine just popped up in my computer and was like, "Do you want to join the Zoom?" Do you not have the Zoom app? Is that the problem?
There's definitely no Teams information in the calendar request that I sent out.
So the question is how you got Microsoft Teams involved. What did you do?
So, all right. I just looked at my calendar. It is a Zoom invite. It has a little join button. When I click on the join button, it goes to some blank screen, right? I don't know why. Maybe I think you're right, Catherine. I wonder if I don't have Zoom downloaded. This may be a browser thing. So I have to
Isn't
actually
this
click
like
on the
your
link.
seventh episode or something?
Ninth.
It doesn't matter. We should move on. I'm not a computer guy. I'm a grain guy.
I
Wait, I'm gonna fight that because I need the entire audience here to know that the only message that Rodney has sent me in the last 4 years, 3 years, something like that, is him being like, I did AI stuff recently. Aren't you proud of me? And then I
think I used the
answered,
word.
and
I
then
think I asked if you were terrified.
I was terrified. Yes, I am
Right.
terrified of everyone doing AI stuff recently. We should definitely talk about that.
Yeah.
But also, you then did not respond when I replied to you. You just basically like yeeted like, look, I'm doing AI stuff at me, and then bounced. No response ever again. Like, hi Rodney, bye Rodney. How's it going, Rodney?
That story doesn't check out. I apologize for that if that's true.
I
I,
will pull up the
nah,
receipts.
nah. I'm
Much
sure.
like this Zoom call, I will pull up the receipts here.
Why would I
Rodney
put
spent
that?
20 years telling me how he's not a computers guy.
Huh?
Like literally, like every time I talk to him, it's about a tech thing. Like it's oh, here's this cool thing that I did in using tech, but like I'm not a computer guy. It's
I
I'm
and I
not
suppose
good.
now at this point I should ask what you were using AI for. Like now I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, so I'm essentially using AI to build some software for myself. So it's only for myself, but it's like vibe coding is what they call it.
Yes,
And it is
I'm
rewarding,
tragically familiar with it.
challenging, and terrible. And I knew you were coming on the show, Catherine, so I was thinking about how you would hate the inefficiencies of my queries that I run. Like they would, I
Mm.
mean, offline, I can tell you the stats of some of the stuff I got going on, and you would cry.
Yes.
did
Now
you
I'm very
You would
excited for
lay
it.
on that couch, cry.
like I don't think we should use podcast time for it, but like when he opens it up, like it loads the screen, like loading the page. At least 2 weeks ago, took like a good minute and a half.
What
And
So
and and he
what
that's
have
he's
you built?
so
Like that's genuinely impressive. At some point it is genuinely impressive.
what they don't tell you about the vibe
so
coding
I
is
Gabe,
it loops in a bunch of processing that doesn't actually do anything,
Yes.
so they
Yes,
can
this is
charge
the
you for more
problem
yeah,
processing.
right.
with it.
Yeah. So anyway,
Ooh.
we identified that problem.
Okay.
Gabe gets my beta versions. He sees them as soon as they're out, right? And I said, hey,
This is the
bear with me.
blind leading the blind here. This is like Gabe reviewing
Hey,
the
look, I
vibe
just want to
coded
say,
app AI code. Sure.
yeah,
No,
I
we're just
have
gonna, everybody
optimized
is
it.
gonna get my ire here, all right? I don't know what you thought was gonna happen by
Yeah,
inviting me on this show. This is
yeah.
exactly how it's gonna go.
So I've optimized it, Gabe, since we talked, and that same screen is now taking like 6 seconds, which
Okay.
is which again, that would make Catherine cry.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially given the
The
amount of data that
modern
I'm crunching.
the modern browser expects to return a screen in something like 10 to 30 milliseconds. Like that is the correct amount of time that something should take.
Yeah, correct.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Look,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
imperfect, but it's a trade-off. The trade-off, it takes me 6 seconds instead of half a second.
Mhm.
I agree, that's a trade-off. So far, I've invested about $75 in 2 months into
Mhm.
something that is like in prior experiences would have taken years to build,
Okay. Is
right?
it
But it's
doing
not
something genuinely useful? I guess is my
generally,
secondary question.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. But it's not like production quality, right? Like, in no way could I like sell this to people,
Mm.
right? To like be a subscription thing. But
So Rodney has built himself a tool that is incredibly useful to Rodney
yeah,
and is not enterprise software.
Are we
that's
obfuscating this like on purpose? Because
No, no,
that's
no,
fine. What does the
no, no, no.
tool do?
yeah. So the tool, it really helps farmers understand their risk, right,
No,
of
it
their
helps
small
you help
operation.
farmers understand their
Helps
risk.
me help
Okay.
farmers understand the
Yes.
risk. Yeah. And it's a way, it's really like in the end, it's a way to get my like brain onto a dashboard that I can walk a guy through and be like, hey, this is how I see your risk. This is how I see your operation. Trying to make sense of the world.
I mean, that feels cool and useful and
It's
great.
cool. I'll show it to you sometime.
I would be super curious to see it. We are seeing a proliferation, I think, of even with like very experienced engineers doing vibe coding because it's like become a big problem for like how do we review this code? Do we even review this code? Is it worth it for us to review this code? Do we just say like, yeah, you got to do your own review? There are now AIs that will review AI code like on purpose. Mostly a lot of the community refers to it as AI slop because it's just like
Yeah.
a pile of like some of this is right, some of this is wrong. It's a bunch of unnecessary stuff in here.
Yeah.
Like 6 minutes of loading things.
Wait, so this is probably a good moment to explain what you do.
Yeah. I think
Sure.
so.
So Rodney and I know Kathryn from Indigo, as you know, like a number of folks, and she was on the engineering side of the fence there, and yeah, that's where we worked with her. And when I met you, you had a background in trading, and I was coding stuff for trading, and I would generate anxiety for you anytime I'd come over and bring up something
Yes.
because you were regularly worried that I would want to implement, I think, high frequency trading was that was like a like bubbling concern, which I never asked
Yeah.
for what
You
we were doing.
you
It was
didn't.
never, but you
You
were just you
didn't.
were ready for it. You were ready for
And
me to ask for it.
and it was like a fair ask. As it turns out, for all the readers at home, we couldn't even implement normal trading at that company. We had like a number of problems with the vendor that had been chosen that we were trying desperately to get our trades through. But yes, I was constantly worried when you would say things like, well, how long is it going to take? And how can we speed up these loops? Yeah, it your input was anxiety and the output was like sometimes code and also like a deep understanding of commodities trading. I was coming from the world of like equities trading where like I understood the world. It was very limited. And I got to commodities. It was just like so deeply outside my experience. I did not know what you guys were saying. And the fact that I had to like conceptualize a physical good that people would trade on as opposed to like an electronic anything, that was wild to me. Like people move grain based on this thing that happens in a computer, like that's crazy to me. So nuts.
I did not so I knew I had you as like a trader, like an engineer related to trading, but I didn't realize you were new to commodities when you were
Yeah.
or is it Indigo? Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the first projects you guys were asking us to do were like, well, how do I triangulate prices around a grain silo? And I was like, what do you mean? Like in the world? Like a physical thing and you care about like movement of trades around a physical thing, like that makes no sense. Why would we do that? Yeah, I had worked for Quantopian, which was a startup that has long since passed that was doing not high frequency trading, automated equities trading based on Python strategies, which is like how I had gotten into that world in general. And then since then, I have done nothing with fintech, frankly. I think
Right.
I went from there to do ecom. Might be missing a job. Went from there to do ecom, and now I am doing cybersecurity. So totally all across the board.
What's
What do you mean you're
ecom?
doing cybersecurity?
I'm in your computer, keeping you safe and doing the elite hacks, actually. Um, ecom is e-commerce.
Is that
So
late with two threes or
yeah, 133. I saw a candidate recently who had like 1337 in his email, and I was like, wow, that's very old school, very 90s hacker.
it's almost like a Hotmail account?
Yeah, yeah. I think that might have been more surprising than if I saw one like an at Yahoo or something. So ecom is
No.
e-commerce. So I went and was selling different physical commodities. At that point, I went like more, I was like, yes, this is interesting, having to ship goods across an ocean. And
Yeah.
so that was the nuance for that company was we had to think about the pricing of from the time that you are building something in a factory somewhere in Asia, how much does it cost and how do you efficiently pack it into shipping containers, ship it to the US, and then like route it across the US to get it wherever it needs to be to the Amazon warehouse out of which we will sell it. And then how do you price that to take all of those factors into account? How do you advertise it to take all of those factors into account? It's sort of
Not
an interesting outgrowth of the Indigo experience, actually.
yeah, not that much different than the grain world,
It
right?
it
Like,
wasn't, but like with weird nuances. Like I hadn't had to think about advertising ever
Mm.
before. And so how you like advertising is like a bid system also. And so you give them like a spread that you're willing to pay and the times. So you think about like keywords and you think about like negative keywords also. Like I do want to match on these things and I definitely don't want to match on these things. Um, you think about strategies at, a campaign level, these like long-term strategies, and then like a spike level. And that was the only place where I had to know explicitly like when Black Friday was starting. And we went from during the time that I was there, we went from caring about we called it the Cyber Five, which was like the 5 days between Black Friday and Cyber Monday, which was like something like a quarter of our sales for the year came out of those like 5 days. And then Amazon, I don't think anyone else knew this. Amazon introduced what they called the Turkey 11, which is perhaps the stupidest marketing term I have ever heard, which was they wanted to extend that window because they hadn't seen the returns during Cyber 5 that they wanted. So they basically just made it an 11-day window. So anyway, the Turkey 11 was then our Super Bowl for ecom.
wow. Well, that's
None of
awesome.
which is relevant now because now I'm in cybersecurity and I have thrown all of that knowledge away.
Hey, so we it isn't our only interaction where I threw that ball of I'm using AI to you and disappeared. We talked in the past a little bit about I had a daughter that was kind of interested in programming. I sent you a couple
Hmm.
notes on it. Anyway, she starts a cybersecurity program in our high school in like 12 days now. So
Oh my
I'm excited
gosh,
about
that's so
it.
cool. Wait, they're teaching it in high school now?
Yeah, so we have it's like a vocational center at our high school where you can pick different
Interesting.
things. So she'll take, I think it's like 3 hours a day that she just focuses totally on that. And when she's done, she has some sort of certification. I don't know what it is, but it's like a 2 year thing. So it's
Wait, is
cool.
she going to Grundy County?
This is Livingston County, but yeah,
Okay.
similar. Yep. Exact same thing. Yeah.
Back when I started with, I mean, no one was calling it engineering back then, first of all. We were all calling it like programming. Back when I
Yeah.
started with programming, you could take like two classes in your high school if you were lucky. And like that was it. You had to go to college, you had to like get actual degrees for stuff. And now there's so much more availability of this information, of these classes. And I think the world has sort of seen this as a true career path for people. Like, oh yeah, it's not just like that weird guy in the corner that like that's all he wants to do. It's like everyone can do this, and there's a space for everyone to do this,
Yeah.
which is so exciting. That's awesome. Congratulations to her.
Yeah. No, we're
Well,
excited to see how that goes. And then the good news is I'm sure she'll end up being a, employee of Clearview Commodities, making sure I'm not like doing something terrible on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's I think I coming into cybersecurity, I had a very narrow view of it. So my partner works in cybersecurity. He works as a pen tester. This is like his career. He does like web application pen testing. And so I understood about this much of
What's
cybersecurity.
hold on? What's pen
Yep.
testing?
So if you are a large business, you basically pay someone to try to hack into your business so that you know all of the like ingresses into your business. For web application in like specifically, you pay them to say like, here is my website, here are my servers. Like, what can you get into? There's a whole variety of ways that you can do that. There are some where you say like, here's my network. Can you get into it? There are some that you say, you're into my network. Can you get access to?
Hmm.
And then there are some that are like infrastructure based. So like, here's my AWS cluster. Can you get into that? And there's just like this huge variety of things in cybersecurity. So I'm super curious what your daughter ends up doing and like where she's going to go with this.
Yeah, no,
The
I'm excited about it.
the first time I dealt with penetration testing was ExtraSense, which is a website we used when we were at Cargill. I don't think it's around anymore, but it lasted about 15, 20 years, I think. And it was our trade. It was the trading website for all the solutions we did globally. But our head engineer at the time for the system, like we had never done it, and he like when he realized that he was like, oh my god, like we need to do it. And he's like, so he comes back to the rails. He goes, so a high school kid with access to like SQL and Wikipedia could probably break in about 15 minutes. Like, and I was like, cool. Like, uh, so we fixed that. But that was my first experience with it.
It's
Was
been, I would say, a really interesting tension through sort of the course of our relationship of like effectively penetration testers and security individuals like can't do anything without engineers. They basically say, here are where your problems are, and then you sort of are reliant on this engineering team to fix the problems. The problem is we have reverse incentives. We are incentivized to like get our work done and build our products, and like we don't super care whether or not you can like get into our system. We have different deliverables.
Yeah,
And so the tension of like security being like, you need to stop building things and fix all these problems, and us being like, yes, but we have deadlines, and bosses
yeah.
who don't care about all these security problems, has been sort of interesting as a conversation backdrop in our household for the last decade or so.
so what are you exactly doing in cybersecurity though? Like you said, she said, I'm doing
Very little
cybersecurity.
these days. Yeah, I'm in cybersecurity. So I actually these days do entirely engineering management. I very rarely get to be hands-on keyboard, which is both disappointing and probably for the best at this point. Um, we So I work, am I allowed to say who I work for?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
cool. I don't know.
We don't know the answer to that question.
This was, I don't know the answer to this question either. So when you post this and I hear from legal, we're gonna know the answer, I suppose. I work for a company called Horizon 3. We do autonomous pen testing. So effectively, the work that I do is attempting to replicate an autonomous version of what my partner does at a sort of larger scale. You can think of it as sort of a breadth versus depth approach. He sort of takes this very well-crafted, well-studied approach. He's like, been doing this for 15 years. He knows all of the ins and outs of it. We are saying we have an autonomous system that can like hit all of these things really fast. The level of detail we're probably going to get not going to be as accurate as an actual human being. The level of things that we can get and the depth that we can go to not going to be as high, but we can do it incredibly quickly. And we can scan these like large scale networks or large scale systems and tell you where your vulnerabilities are.
hmm,
And from that, the company has sort of built out a suite of products around this kind of capability. So our bread and butter was originally here is this autonomous agent. It's called Node Zero, and it knows how to do internal and external web app tests, i.e., like I'm inside your network and I'm looking at things, or I'm outside your network and I'm trying to get into your network. Um, and then we sort of expanded it. So now we do like we can test your Kubernetes infrastructure, we can test your AWS infrastructure, we can do phishing attempts, we can I'm gonna not remember a whole bunch of these. We can do Azure, we can do like all of these different types of tests around these different things that people want to know where their vulnerabilities are. And at the heart of it, all of this is trying to like tell people what their security posture is. And then we've sort of spun up a new arm that is like, well, and here's how you fix it, or here's what you can do.
What's a security posture?
Um, Security posture just is describing like here is the current state of the security of the things that you own, like your assets. So, for example, if you have like 7 different highly critical problems that like, for example, what you said, which was like, oh, somebody can, with Wikipedia can break into your network in 15 minutes, like that is a critical thing that you should know. Your security posture, pretty bad. You should be concerned about that.
Yeah.
Versus like our agent scanned you, didn't find anything, or found entirely minor things. Or, hey, we got into your cluster and we got all of your passwords and we were able to crack all of your passwords super easily because every single one of them was password 123. Like, well, your security was good. It took us a really long time to get into there, but your password policy is terrible. So, like, now there's some nuance to some of these things. So, trying to keep users who shouldn't have to think about all of these things, right? Like, as a business owner, I don't want to also have to know everything about how security works.
Right.
Trying to be able to inform them of what the most critical problems are across their entire network and across all of the different things that they own is really what our goal is.
So are they hiring you for like contract work or ongoing? Like, is it
No,
like,
no, no, no. I own sort of an entire pillar of the engineering team. So our engineering team has sort of an application layer. You could think of this as like all of the user-facing products. So this is Node Zero, but also we have something called tripwires, which is like we stick a thing in your network that tells you if like somebody ever comes in after us and is trying to do a bad thing. We have insights, which is like how do I roll up some of the learnings that we have to like a CTO dashboard style level, or tell you how things like your EDR is doing. Um, your EDR is like the if you think of it as like a firewall plus plus, it's like trying to block malicious activity within your network. We can tell you like how those things are doing, how at a high level you guys have performed on this pen test, all of these like other pieces. That all falls in application product. I run the application platform team, which is all of the things that are cross-cutting across all of these different products, but that are nonetheless necessary for a team to own. So this is things like integrations. This is things like our database, our like ETL, our user settings and packaging and pricing and licensing, um, all of these sort of core capabilities that aren't the products, but that need to have sort of an owner and a team dedicated to it. So I refer to us as 3 raccoons in a trench coat. So we have like an external team that they mostly handle like user settings and packaging and pricing and licensing, an internal team that handles like platform stability and our databases and ETL monitoring, things like that. Security falls under that. And then an attack team who handles our like core the core of Node Zero, which is not the thing that knows how to do attacks. It's the thing that knows how to like talk to a database and do parallelism, things like that. Um, 3 very different groups with very different types of people in them, but that nonetheless sort of fall under this like if you turn your head and squint, it's all sort of platform capabilities.
sure, right. Interesting. I guess my question is when a company hires your company, is it like for
Ah,
term or is it,
got it.
yeah,
So let's talk about like broad trends. Sorry, we're just like diving off a cliff
that's
here. Let's
great.
talk about broad trends we're looking at in the security world. Um, most companies have contractual obligations to run a pen test something like once a year. They have to get like recertified and run a pen test against themselves. It meets like this set of criteria and they have to do that once a year. And at the end of like Q3, Q4, everybody remembers that that needs to happen. And they like hire a company to go have a guy do it for them in like December so that they can meet the like January compliance goal. Uh, However, we are finding that that is just not sufficient anymore. One, because sort of the things that are required in that set of checkboxes is not actually a good indicator of whether or not your system is secure. And two, because the volume of new vulnerabilities that are being published is so high that even if you were perfect in January, by the time you've gotten to like March or April, something new may have come out that like your system is very, very vulnerable to, and you should know about it immediately. One of the things that we are trying to sort of push people towards is like continuous monitoring effectively. How do you set up these things autonomously so that they are running every week, every month, every quarter, like whatever that volume is that gives you the indicator, but that would nonetheless allow you to sort of increase your level of security and surety. of the system beyond sort of the once a year check.
It's at that point, it's an early alert system, right? Like,
It is. And one of the interesting things that we have, we call it, sorry, now I'm just shilling for my company, but here
I
we are.
love
It's
it.
an interesting thing.
Yeah.
It's called rapid response. And it's basically, hey, we have looked at your network, we've done a scan, and we do these scans in like a really deep way. So we like go into your network, we say like, what are all the hosts that we can get to? What are all the ports on that host? What are all the applications running on this host? And we like create a map of that. And that's saved as part of like the things that you have in your account. Those are your assets, but we know about them, which means if we then see, hey, there's a vulnerability for this application that runs on this port that looks like this or has this configuration, we can like send you a message that says like this thing was just released. You are going to be vulnerable to it based on the
Mhm.
data that we have. You should do something about that, and allows us to like proactively notify you that this thing has now, come up. Somebody posted it on Twitter or something, so we
Yeah.
can then within hours say, this thing has come up, you are vulnerable to it, immediately go close the gap, so that you don't run the risk of like, hey, when it comes to the sort of larger hive mind, that somebody is going to take a script and just like point it at every company they can find in the S&P
Right.
500 and like pop them.
Interesting.
That was a lot of me talking.
That's awesome.
Better than Rodney and I talking.
Yeah, for sure. More interesting.
So you said you had a narrow view when you came into it. Like what?
Yeah.
So I guess obviously not what's everything you learned, but like what are some notable things that like you would tell yourself before coming in? Like, hey, here's a like cool thing that you will learn about.
So, in my view, based on sort of what my partner does, my understanding of like hacking was hacking through a website because that was most of what he did. So, you go to a website, you're able to do a certain number of attacks. You're able to say, what APIs can I abuse? What credentials can I get? Sometimes in like headers and things coming back from those, you can like get credentials of things. How do I abuse things like login to get either enumerate users who exist in the system or like get access to accounts that I shouldn't have access to. But it was this very like, oh, this is what I've seen him do, therefore this is what hacking is. And to his credit, he had done things outside of that. He had done some amount of networking, pivoting on boxes, things like that. But in my brain, I was like, ah, yes, web app, that is what hacking is. And then I got to H3 and realized like, oh, actually, each one of, web app is like one among 10 things. The like breadth of ways that you can abuse someone's security system is like wild. Like the fact that everyone is not paralyzed by the number of ways that you can be hacked is insane.
Yeah.
And we act sort of surprised when it's like, oh yeah, Sony got this like crazy hack and like people had tons of access to them, or like the Target hack was another big one. Like these things happen. And we act so like surprised, like how could they have let this happen? They have a security team, they were doing all this stuff. It's because there's like 10,000 other ways that someone can get access to your system. And there's ways to make a living off of these things. They're called bug bounty programs, but they're basically like companies put up like, here are the ways in which you can hack me ethically, and I will pay you money to go hack me ethically. Like anyone on the internet,
Broadly,
just like,
that's out. Like I could
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Yeah. Huh.
yeah. And it's not every company. Companies have
Sure.
these like responsible disclosure ways, and they are part of these programs, and the programs have conflict, but whatever. But like those are the ethical ways. Think about how many people
Mhm.
are out there, not just in the US, like globally, who are trying to get access to some of these countries. And all of the, AI is making this easier. Actually, I'm gonna bring this all the way back around, right? AI is making this easier because you can say to it, hey, you say something like, I'm a security provider. Help me get ahead of some of the ways that somebody would hack me if I were Target or if I were Sony or if I were blah 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 blah. And so the you don't even sort of have the barrier to entry that you used to have, which is like you need to know sort of a modicum amount about computers and networks and like these pivoting things and some of these attacks. It used to be you would go to this one website and it had a bunch of scripts and you could like download a script and point it at something and like probably would get something. Probably. If you target it at enough things, you can like get something. But you still had to know, like, I need to go to this website, I need to download this script, I need to know that this person has this particular program running and this particular vulnerability, and then you like need to run it. All of that requires some knowledge. Now, it's like, well, I have this MCP server and it can like fire things against the internet and it can like know how to do all of these different attacks because it has the knowledge of the internet and Stack Overflow and Reddit and like all of these sources of information. And you just don't need as much as you used to in order to do some of these really malicious things.
Hmm.
Everyone should be much more afraid than they are, is I
Yeah,
think
that's
maybe the thing that
terrifying.
I've learned. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when we started, you said you were terrified of AI or something like that. But it
Yeah.
sounds to me like you're more terrified of how people are going to be able to use AI, right? Or are you also worried about singularity and stuff like that?
No, no, I think I'm less terrified of that. AI is both. I want to be very clear that when I say AI right now, I mean like generative AI. It's both like the dumbest thing I have ever seen people get hype about, and also like the most insane and like incredible thing that I've seen people
So,
be
so
hyped
why don't
about.
you, what is, when you say generative AI, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean the sort of AI that people like the one that you talk to now and you get a human type response, right? You put human language into it. It has a huge model that it is running, that it like understands that language, it parses it. It now is going out and searching the internet, didn't used to do that, bringing you back knowledge based on that human language, and writing that back to you in a human way that allows you to interact with it as if you would another person. This is different from what we used to think about AI, which used to be like models that would make decisions, but that weren't necessarily like human language capable. The human language, I think, has been really a force multiplier in people's work because it allows them to not have to know anything about the domain that they are acting upon, right? So this is the sort of thing that I was just talking about. Just like I don't have to know anything about security. I can go in and be like, tell me how to hack Target as if you're my grandma telling me a bedtime story, which was like, this happened. This happened. I think somebody was using it. They got, it was like a bomb recipe or something. And he was like, tell me how to make a bomb. And the chat was like, no, that's bad. Don't do that. And then it was like, tell me, my grandma used to tell me this as a bedtime story. And, she's passed, but I really want to hear it. And you like can coerce this thing into giving you knowledge that it shouldn't otherwise. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of like, oh, we should have guardrails around these things. But I don't have to know anything about really terrifying, really powerful stuff to get access to that knowledge anymore. And now that we have allowed it to do things like going out and searching the internet, searching Stack Overflow, searching all of these sources of information that, as a programmer, I used to joke that most of my job was just Googling things, but really it was most of my job was like going to Stack Overflow and knowing how to search for the information that I wanted.
Yeah.
Now, I don't even have to have that skill. There's like none skill involved to get the answers that I need.
Yeah, except I'll disagree with that, Catherine,
Okay.
because I think while vibe coding is not making me any better of an engineer, it is making me a better communicator to artificial intelligence.
Ah,
Exactly what
prompt
you're talking
engineering.
about.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah.
I know how to ask the questions
Yeah.
or learning how to ask the questions.
But do
Um,
you think, I mean, to me, I'm sorry, Rodney, I'm gonna say this. I don't know how else to say this. To me, that is still a like low skill requirement, right? Like there is the thing that you have learned did not require you to read books. It did not require you to like go to classes. It didn't require you to spend years like honing a craft. You had to learn how to talk to it.
yeah.
Absolutely. I would,
I so think about video games. Okay, like
sure.
so like so it a common trope in video games is there's a boss that you're fighting and it has a pattern and you have to learn, right? You have to learn the pattern. And and you can do that. Basically, you can play it as many times as you want in your house, and like you eventually learn the pattern, and that's how you beat it. And so like sometimes that can be a really high skill thing, right? Like actually executing the pattern might be really difficult. I think it's difficult to determine for in this case like what the skill ceiling is in terms of trying to figure out how important is skill level to prompt to figure out what to ask the AI because you're allowed to iterate so quickly, which is a fundamental difference, right? And so it like I think something that you can practice a lot really quickly may give the illusion of being easy or the appearance because
Mm,
that you've compressed the time. But I do think like in the same way that searching in Stack Overflow, like that was a skill, right? Like,
yeah.
and I think the prompting is still a skill. I absolutely debatable in terms of how challenging a skill. I'm not smart enough. Maybe the AI can tell us like relative to other things.
There was
But
oh, I'm sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say, but I think it is a thing where because you can do lots of reps really quickly, like you can advance that skill much faster than you can lots of other things because it's not fatiguing, right? Like you're not you don't get tired from. I mean, other than general tiredness, like, but it's not like lifting weights or something. Like,
Right.
Yeah. There was a study that they did because I want to sort of draw two distinctions. Well, in my world at least. There was a study that they did, I want to say a few months back, that was basically like, what is the productivity that we are seeing out of software engineers, those who are using AI and those who aren't? And what they basically found was you weren't going any faster. You were iterating faster, but you had to your point, do more reps in order to get the same thing as if you had just written it in the first place. That's, however, I think a very specialized category of people, right? I can vibe code something roughly in the same amount of time that it would take me to like write it from scratch. However, this is my career. That is what I do. I think the other bucket that I want to draw is there is a group of people for whom this was never a skill. This is not
Right.
something that they know how to do. And so it doesn't matter if it takes 100 reps or 1,000 reps, they are still like net positive in the amount of time that it is going to take them to do something relative to if they had to pick up the skill from scratch in the first place.
Yeah. So that's exactly right, Catherine. And I think about the days that me and you would sit next to each other in the basement of Indigo and
Yeah.
try to like back and forth these concepts, right? Like I'm talking about grain stuff that you don't really understand, and
Not
you're
at
coming
all.
back with engineering stuff that I don't really understand, right?
You gave it a really
What
good
I've
try, though.
seen is yeah, what I've seen is when I do that in Chat GPT, it knows both, right? It's
Mm.
terrible. It's
Yeah.
terrible. It like so dumb. You're right to say it's so dumb. Uh it makes bad conclusions, right? Or it like heads down the wrong path. But that's where I think the skill of like knowing how to talk to it, where you can correct it and bring it
Yeah.
back onto the right path. Really, I don't know. I'm super excited about it. It has done exactly that for me, Catherine. It has said, "Hey, you don't know anything about coding, but you need this, right? You have two choices. You can go sit next to Catherine and make it worth her time for 6 months, or you can like turn The Simpsons on TV and, talk to ChatGPT for a while and get it
Yeah.
done. And it's, I don't know.
well, I mean, undoubtedly it raises the floor, right? It raises the minimum. I'll go back to video games again. Um, Ronnie, you ever play World of Warcraft?
One of my favorites. You knew that, right? Okay, all right.
So
Oh,
Glowinski plays too, or used to.
absolutely.
Uh,
I mean, like
and
a month ago, I saw you online.
yeah,
Let us be
yeah.
clear for the general public.
I still
We
go in
mutually
there.
saw each other online a month ago.
Yeah. That's why she's here. Like,
Hmm.
It's true.
but there, so if you don't know, World of Warcraft is it's been around for like what
20
25,
years.
20 years.
Yeah.
And so over time, in a lot of ways, that game's gotten far more complex. And so like and any given you play a character in a world and you're attacking stuff. And so there's a level of complexity to a given character in terms of hitting the right button at the right time. You might have a dozen different things you could do, and like they're on timers and all this kind of stuff. And so like short timers, right? So it's not like you're spending 10 minutes waiting for something. It's anyway. So they recently put something out called one button
Yeah.
play. And so like literally it's like ChatGPT, and that like all you have to do is hit one button, and the game's like, this is the next best thing to do, right? Right now, we think this is the best thing to do. And
Hmm.
so there's a lot of reasons to do that, because there's a lot of different characters, and if you want to try them out, it's difficult to know like what you're supposed to do for those characters. If you've got disabilities where you can't use all your fingers or your motor skills are hurting a little bit, like it's really cool for that. But the funny thing is they put in a penalty where I don't know what it was, but it's like the amount of damage you do is like reduced by 25% or something. If you and I think it's like that
Did they
significant.
actually put it in? They were
Yeah, they
talking
did.
about it. Oh, okay.
They did. And so you're not as effective a player if you're using ostensibly if you and I are doing the same thing and I'm hitting the one button thing and you're hitting the buttons yourself. But what's happened is and I don't know the exact rates, but the majority of players that are using the one button are doing, are more effective players than the players that aren't. Right. And so it just speaks to all kinds of things about like how broken as humans are, because it's like it's so hard to think like, well, how could that thing that has a 25% handicap like be better than me who's been playing this game for 15 or 20 years and whatever. I have not bothered to look at the comparison. I also have no delusions about my level of engagement, where I probably do a better job with the one button version, but it's more fun to hit the different buttons.
So I hadn't played, but when I saw you was like the first time I had been playing in like 3 years or something like that. I was
Okay.
off the sauce. I had like given it up, cold turkey. And I had come back. This like doesn't matter. I'd come back because there was like a mount gathering event, and they were higher chances for gathering the collectibles, and they drew me back in. Anyway, I was so against this one button push, this one button click thing, whatever they're calling it. Uh, in the same way that I am so inherently against like AI taking my job, where I'm just like, well, I know how to do the thing. Like, why would I ask the thing to do the thing that I am proficient at?
Yeah.
And so for a while, I had just jumped back in. I had come back after 3 years. I was like, I'm not going to use this thing. I'm going to like clicky my buttons. I didn't know what I was doing. It was terrible. It felt terrible. I was like, I am not effective at this. I was playing with my partner. He's like rocking and rolling. He's been playing like constantly the last couple of years. He's like raiding in a guild. He's like doing all these stuff. And I felt terrible. And I was like, you know what? Fine. I'll just, for a little while, I'll just take a little dabble of the one push button
Just a
thing.
taste. Yeah.
Just to try it out. It's great. He's gonna like overhear me saying this. It's great in that I like felt like I was keeping up. I was being less efficient than I could be, and that I was finally able to like keep up, and I didn't have to go do an hour of research to figure out what had changed in the 3 years that I was gone to figure out what my renew rotation was going to be. It like, I'm not at his level, but it brought me up to here, and then we could like play together, and that was really
Yeah.
nice. I had no illusions that I was amazing, but it was
So
nice.
I had not heard of this. I think the problem is that you're not building reps, right? You're not.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so to me, I think the line that I've drawn here is if it's what you want to do, you should actually do it, right? But if it's just a means to an end, right? Then yeah, I think the AI is like a great way to do it, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's building code or playing the game, like I cannot imagine jumping onto World of Warcraft and slamming one button for 4 hours at a time. That sounds terrible, right?
Yep.
But if I'm doing that because I think it gets me started in the game or whatever, I think the problem is you're not going to build reps, right? You'll never
No.
be able to push
Well,
them.
in the same way that you are not going to, based on the thing that you have built, become a programmer day to
No,
day. It has
right.
taught you nothing.
No, right.
So, but I mean, question mark, you have no illusions that you are going to become a programmer day to day. That is
No.
not your chosen path. I think the issue starts to come when you cross those paths. So, like, I don't know if you were on this part of Twitter. There's a gentleman who said, I vibe coded an app. It's amazing. And he put it up on Twitter, and it basically got attacked. So now we're going to bring it back to security. It basically got
Mhm.
attacked by a bunch of people being like, let me see what you got for your security because you've now hosted this thing on the internet.
Yeah.
Like within minutes, this thing, like the database was dropped, there was like nothing left, there was like an immediate second post from the guy being like, well, that was a bad idea, who knows how to secure things?
Yeah.
Because
For
he
sure.
wrote something, he had no context for the thing he built, he put it public on the internet, God
That's-
bless him.
Yeah.
And then like sort of the predictable thing happens when you put something on the internet, which was like people are gonna try to tear it down.
That's right.
Well, it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Like, is that what that is? Where if you this idea when you,
Oh, you think you know something?
yeah, like you don't know anything at all, and you realize you don't know anything, and then we believe we know it much faster than we think we do. Like that is that experience in a nutshell, right? Like that guy thought he knew how to build a web app. Like,
Yeah.
this is a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm an amazing person. I'm a special
Yeah,
genius. Let me put this online. And then the world very quickly, right, corrected his understanding of where he was relative to thing. Like, oh, I don't know anything about like a lot of this stuff. Um, yeah,
But I mean,
I haven't, but as I'm saying this, I don't know that I've seen it put in that context, but I'm sure somebody has written something about it. But that totally has got to be a thing where people using AI think that they know whatever it is they're
oh
using
God,
AI
yeah.
for way better than they actually do.
for sure.
Um,
But to Rodney's point, they're not getting the reps on it. They haven't actually learned anything. They have just asked something correctly to make it look like a facsimile of a correct thing.
well,
They're
so
85% there.
going back to the Warcraft example, so there's an intermediate thing you can
Gabe
do.
really wants to talk about Warcraft. Let's go.
Well,
I mean, that's
it's
what we do here, Kathryn. I don't know if you've ever
Sure,
talked about it.
sure.
where so there's the version where like I've got to know everything to hit, and I'm paying attention to all this shit and like tracking everything. There's the version where I'm just punching one button, but they also have a version where in between that it'll show you what it thinks you should do. So you're not hitting one button, but it highlights it, right?
Yeah.
Which I actually use because
Do you?
especially
Do
when
you
I'm
like it?
jumping.
I hadn't switched
I
yet,
so
but I was
I do
considering.
like it for two reasons. One, so there are things you can do that suddenly you have like some random special power, like, and I forget about those all the time. So
Yeah.
the computer remembers that it's there all the time, and so it helps me remember that it's there. And yeah, and like that's well. The other reason is when I'm jumping between characters, that way I'm not, I'm still not switching over the one button because I do like the agency that I feel like, and sometimes I don't want to do thing for whatever reason, right? Like I have a better view of what's happening relative to whatever is informing everything that I may not want to do whatever the next button is. So there are like really strong powers that have long cooldowns that the one button stuff will have you do as soon as they're ready. And it might be that, oh, I'm fighting something that's super weak right now, and the next thing is really strong, and I don't want to use up that cooldown because it's longer. Like so,
Mm.
at least like I'm making decisions that are important that affect my experience while playing the game still. But at the same time, it's super helpful to be like, hey, like this is the thing I think you should do, right? And it means literally just a little. It just highlights right what it is, so it's not like intrusive at all. Um, and
Mm.
but I don't know what the in between is there between Rodney, what you're doing, right, and what
Yeah,
like a
what's the
full on.
equivalent? Like, how do we? Because to your point, you're sort of getting reps. You're getting reps
You
at
get
the
the reps,
thing.
yeah.
Right. So how
Well,
do we do that for the work that Rodney's doing?
so for me, I mean, I could say like, so I spent a lot of time trying to get this, like Gabe says, 2 minutes down to 6 seconds. It wasn't 2 minutes, but a lot of time, right?
He said 6 minutes,
I
actually.
said six
So
minutes,
if
I think.
it's 2 minutes, you're already doing better than the original.
It was not 6 minutes. So, anyway, but again, back to AI being really dumb. I just like uploaded my files, right, to AI and was like, hey, these are related, right? Again, hey, I'm not uploading the database. These are my like
It's
Python files.
fine. It's
And
fine.
I'm like, hey, I think these things are related. They're super inefficient. Can you tell me why? And it's like, well, yeah, you're checking these things like over and over and over. And it would say, like, you need to make this is how much I pay attention, right? It's telling me I need to like package it up somehow or like whatever. Essentially, I was making these helper scripts
Mm,
that I could call, right, once and store it in a cache and then have it ready for me when I needed it, right?
okay.
So I'm like, yeah, do that. I didn't read like why I was doing it or what that was, right? I'm just like, yeah, copy paste, right? And then copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And the next thing you know, I'm like hitting refresh on this thing and it was like instant. I'm like down to like 5 milliseconds now, right? Except I look up and I'm like, oh wait, I'm missing like this huge chunk of my plan. So I go back and I look and it's like it told me, hey man, the way to really speed this thing up is to get rid of the core functionality of the thing you're
Yeah,
trying to do, right?
The
That'll
yeah.
best
really
way. This
but
airline
so
would be
I
great
guess what I'm
except for all
saying,
the planes. Let's get rid of all the
yeah.
planes. Yeah, yeah.
So if instead of constantly saying, "Hey, just give me back the code so I can copy and paste it," if I was really asking it questions like, "Hey, how should I think about this process, right? Like, how should I understand how caching works and then actually write the code yourself?" I think the biggest problem I'm doing today is I'm not writing the code. I am literally copying and pasting. Like I am rarely actually writing code. So I think that would be the middle
But
step.
I do think sort of inherent in what you are telling me is actually that you have gotten reps with this because you just said the words unironically, oh yeah, I need caching in this application. So like you learned something in this. Now,
Correct.
whether or not it was like enough for you to go off and be a developer, no, probably not.
No way.
But
Right.
like, my job used to be I need to go to Stack Overflow, I'm gonna copy paste this thing into my code and see if it works. It wasn't like I, inherently was like looking at it and then I was like, oh, I need to type this thing. It was I'm copying and pasting it, but you still learn something. So I'm actually not convinced that you're not learning.
Yeah, well, and then to add to that, so these helper scripts have been super important, right? And what happens is when you just make ChatGPT build software for you, it just like stacks on stacks on
Yeah,
stacks, right?
it's pretty
Like,
bad.
look at, hey, go search 1,000 bids for this, and then go search 1,000 bids for this, and go search 1,000 bids for this. So it taught me like, hey, you can package all those bids into one thing, and you just call this function, right? So again, back to what I'm learning now, when I'm building something out, I remind it like, hey, I have
Mm.
this helper script that I need to use to do this. So I am getting better, but I'm no engineer and never
No,
will
no.
be.
So this is um one of the many things that I'm doing at this company in particular because we congratulations to us, just got our Series D. It is very exciting. We are pumped about it. As such, our board has said, what if you doubled the size of your engineering organization? So I am doing a lot of hiring, like a lot. It's most of my day is just hiring. As part of that, because we have sort of identified like, oh, people who are highly skilled using AI as a like force multiplier is actually like we actually believe that they get something out of it and it's not just like false time versus like the average person may or may not make use of that. And so one of the questions that I ask all of these candidates is like, how are you using AI in your day-to-day life? And I leave it like pretty broad. And sometimes people tell me like, well, I use ChatGPT as a Google replacement. Sometimes people will say, oh, I use GitHub Copilot. So like it basically is just like a fill in the blank for like you're already writing a piece of code, fills in the blank. But then sometimes people will tell me really interesting ways that they are using code. And so I had spoken to someone in the last week who was telling me about the way that they save off pieces of information and like build up this plan. They create a plan with it. They ask it questions, they ask it to challenge them on the plan,
Mhm.
and then they like ask more questions. And anytime there's like oh yeah, we should do it this way, they tell it to save it to a file. And they build up this really long file. And when they are satisfied with that full file, they say, okay, go execute against that file. So they're using it to like lay out these steps and then can enrich it with additional context like, oh, and you need to do this efficiently, or you need to use a caching layer, or you need to do whatever against this plan that we have now co-developed that has been challenged
Yep.
uh, and then have it execute. So it doesn't have to maintain all this context at once. It is not just going to go off the rails because it believes that this is like the one true path. It's sort of this interesting, like, I'd call it assisted experience, where then, yeah, the AI is like writing the code for them, but it still is like being used in a way that to me sort of closer matched how like a software engineer thinks about building out their own plan, right? You like
Mhm.
don't go into it and you're just like, man, I'm just gonna type code. You sort of think out like, what would this function look like? How would I structure these things?
Yeah.
Do I need a new package? Do I put it in the old package? Do I use this piece of code that already existed? Right? And so it closer mirrored that. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about, plan generation and then like execute against the plan generation as part of this.
Yeah.
Anything else cool that you've seen people do with it?
Oh, I'd have to go back through all my notes on it. Mostly it's around the biggest problem that people seem to be trying to solve is around how to give it additional context and additional information, either from outside sources, or from like its own generation, writing things to a file and rehydrating it from the file. Because the biggest blocker to a lot of people's development is just the window that it can keep in mind at any time. Now, you can pay more money to get larger window, but generally it can only keep so many things in frame at once. So if you're building these deeply complex systems, it really needs like outside and external knowledge.
Yeah.
One of the big products that we are working on, and actually I think I can talk about this now because our CEO has now demoed it at Black Hat as of what time is it? 5:30? As of 2.5 hours ago.
All
So
right.
We have built what's called an MCP server, which is basically what if I took an LLM agent and connected it to a whole like array of services in ways that are native to them. So you can think of this as sort of an interface layer between an LLM and like any API service that you want. For example, for Jira, there's a bunch of APIs on Jira. You can call Jira's APIs. You have to like have your own auth token. You can, get access to those, but you have to be a developer, or previously had to be a developer to do that. You had to look at the APIs and look at the documentation and like hook your program up to it and do all of these things. And they basically put this MCP server in, which says, here is the human readable description, or they put it on their APIs. I don't know how they implemented it. Here's the human readable description of what each of these APIs does in a way that will allow your local client, or however you're using it, to go out and say, I want to create a Jira ticket. You don't have to know how to create a Jira ticket. You don't have to know what the API for a Jira ticket is. You say, I want to create a Jira ticket. It goes and finds the API based on the documentation that they have provided and does the work to then create a ticket. And then you can, in your like little local agent, say, I want to connect to Jira and I want to connect to, for us, it's node 0. And I want to run a penetration test and then file a ticket and then send the update through my own like Kubernetes cluster update system that I happen to have written a server for. And then I want to retest it and then I want to close the ticket, right? All of these like workflows out of this one place. And so it's not just like you need to have you need to have the knowledge for all of these things, which previously you had to. It is now providing like the human readable way to interact with each of these things independently, and then a human readable way to have each of those things know what they do and know what you need access to without you having to have like explicit knowledge of each of these things. It's so cool.
So that's how AI replaces me, by the way. That right there. Like, so Kathryn, think back to the grain side of things, right?
Mm,
One of the biggest problems with grain is everybody has their unique like pod, right? The ERP systems are all separate. Scale tickets look separate. That's the thing that drives me the most crazy out of all these things. Bids are separate. All these things are separate, right? And they all mean different things to different people. I can't wait for the day that like they have these networks built for an individual farmer and he can just like in one place say, "Oh yeah, when I delivered here, I delivered corn here and this is what it is. And I delivered corn here and it's here." Combined into one like UI for these guys. They
yeah.
don't have that today. And like I'll tell you in my new
Yeah,
business where
didn't we
I'm
try to
dealing
build that?
yeah,
That's
we
what we were
did.
trying to do at Indigo.
But
I,
we were doing it before
Worked great.
AI. Yeah.
I, man, yeah. Well, I guess to bring it to ag, right? Like this great. Sorry, I'm struggling because like one of my big frustrations is in this type of space, it takes so long to bring that type of thing into agriculture specifically. Like, and I mean, I think about this years ago when I was doing a bunch of the work on the behavioral finance stuff. As a field, it's been around for like 50 years, right? I
Yeah.
think late 70s. And so there was a ton of stuff around equities and decision making and in that space. But like in into the 2000s, nobody had really figured out how to apply it to people making commodity decisions. And it was shockingly frustrating, like seeing that. But then, so great. So I figured out how to do that at Cargill, and I know other people do it now. I mean, I guess maybe the hopeful thing is that given the focus on natural language, maybe it'll make itself more efficient in its adoption. Um, but the
What is it,
beast.
Gabe? Is it a bubble? Is it just that we're stuck in this bubble, like as an industry?
It's something where I think the language itself does vary literally across the country, right? The way people talk about things. And so with equities has long had a standardized set of language, both in terms of as like if you and I were talking about an equity transaction, and it's had a standardized code language as well for a long time. And so commodities, no single commodity is big enough that it's the thing is like you were saying at the top, Catherine, was like, okay, equities like was pretty straightforward. Like it's this thing, and everything's kind of the same, right? They're different companies, but at the end of the day, any issue is largely the same as any other issue, other than the actual company underneath it.
Get data,
Um,
you buy it, you sell it. That's it.
and so when you come up with a solution for equities, like it applies to all the equities, which is a massive market, right? When you come up with a solution with FX, like currencies, right? Massive market. With commodities, like the solution for corn does not apply to anything other than corn in the US in US dollars.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't work, there's always variance there. And whether it's the language, the behavior, just like the literal, like the rating systems on those things are totally different.
Well, this was part of our frustration at Indigo, was like everything had an exception. We kept trying to say like, okay, what's the abstraction? What's the abstraction? And for everything, it was like, oh yeah, and you need to look at like the percent protein or like how many bugs it can have in it, which by the way is like a wild, that was I think the biggest thing I took out of Indigo is like there is a percentage of bugs in my corn and wheat, and that is acceptable and normal. But like
There's
all of
also, I don't know if we got into it, but there's a different acceptable number of live bugs versus dead bugs, just so you know. Yeah.
well, I only
so
programmed for like one of them, so we're good. But I remember we like had to have a discussion about like, well, do we need to represent these as like a top number and a bottom number of bugs that we can have, or do we have to represent them by bands of bugs that somebody can enter? Like, how do we think about? And it was just like the wildest set of for this one particular commodity things that we had to think about. Everything had an exception.
Yeah.
I'm going to totally change gears. Sorry, well, not totally, a little bit change gears. Do you guys use Google as your search engines?
I do. I would never use ChatGPT as a search engine.
Okay.
That sounds crazy.
I will say mostly. I have switched recently to using Brave as a browser, and Brave has their own search. It is built on Chromium. I actually like their search less, but I like their browser more, so I'm willing to put up with it until I need to like search for an image, in which case I like have to type search.google.com to get
Mm.
the images that I want, but other than that, it's fine.
Does Brave is there a crypto component to that, or am I thinking of
I
something
think
else?
they have no, there's a VPN component to it that you can elect into. I like it because it has a built-in ad blocker, and so I don't get nearly as much spam as I used to, and it's a slimmed down version of Chrome, so it doesn't feel as heavy and bloated, and things like load faster if I have 400 tabs, which I usually do.
Yeah.
I have been getting really annoyed by the Google results. Like I do not like the AI summaries. I don't find them
Mm.
Oh,
nearly as
no.
useful as it seems to think they are.
They're
Not, and then
awful.
it's like the AI summary, and then like sponsored, 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 and then something. And
Yeah.
so like, and I bounced off things, and so I'm still primary Google today. I don't use the AI stuff as a search engine replacement, but I like as I wander around, there was an article that came out just a day or two ago on Ars Technica about I don't know if I'm going to say it right, Kagi or KG as this like it's a paid search engine,
Oh.
which I was
Have we
like,
come to paid search engines? Is that where
I
we're
mean,
at as a
it's
society?
not crazy, right? Like so actually we didn't ask Jake about this. We had Jake on 2 weeks ago, but like he uses
You
a
guys really are
paid.
just going for all Indigo across the board.
Well,
Or
Rodney
nothing.
hasn't signed up anybody, and I don't know anybody
Yeah.
else. And but I think he uses a paid email service. Like, and I've thought about that, like as the like as something to do. And it's like I'm not like a private like I don't. I've given up on the idea that like we have any privacy online. Like I'm not so worried about that. But it's just more about controlling the ad flow. Like I will you so if you have anything with ads and I like it and you let me pay you money to not see ads, I will pay you the money to not see ads. Like
Yeah.
I've got no problem, right? Like I'm in almost every case I'm happy to do that. So
There's
that
these things that we've been talking about making. I'm trying to remember what they're called. I think they're called pie holes. I think I'm saying that correctly. And it's basically a device that you like put into your network whose job is to like sit between your router and any of your other devices. And the only thing it does is say, "Are you an ad?" and then drop it on the floor.
Mm.
And so like it's sort of the like ad blocker, but at the like incoming network stream
A
level.
hardware driven one.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is something we have considered. I will suggest the Brave browser. One of my colleagues suggested it to me, and I've liked it, other than the search is less good than Google search.
Yeah, I tried it out. I remember I tried it out. I think it's just habit, right? I just click on, you got to
Yeah,
put the icon in the right spot.
I had to
Otherwise,
get used to it
yeah.
for sure. There's also
Either whips.
I didn't realize that we were still iterating on browser technology. Guess I sort of in my head thought we had like settled on one. There's a browser called the Arc browser that I tried a year ago, something like that. They had a bunch of engineering positions open, so naturally I tried the browser. And they are rethinking the sort of setup of your browser. Like they put things on the side and then give you a full page. And the like level of disorientation that I felt from just you took my window and you took it from here and put it here
Yeah.
was ridiculous. To the point where I was like, I am ashamed that I am unable to adapt to the fact that my like search engine is now on the side and you are like keeping track of my history there. But it was, I think, a really interesting move of like, this is different. You have tried something different. There is still experimentation in this space.
Mm.
Well, I remember, so I was in college in the late 90s, and yeah, well, as
No
was
comment.
Rodney.
Little guy.
No comment on either of these.
And so back then, like there wasn't a default browser, like there wasn't a default search engine, and I still remember, I forget what the name of the site was, but like there was a website you would go to do a search, and it would basically hit 12 different search engines and like give
Mm.
you all the so it would be Google, but there was like Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves, like I don't know what else, whatever random Netscape thing was going on. Do you do you know Netscape,
I do know
Glowinski?
Netscape.
Okay, I was
I am
curious.
not as young as you think that I am based on that
Well,
question. Yes,
yeah.
I know Netscape. And we used also, oh shoot, what was it? The one that was the competitor for Microsoft Word, WordPerfect. Our household
Oh,
was
you
a
used Word
Netscape and
Perfect.
WordPerfect household. Yeah,
Wait,
because
what
that
about
was
so
everyone
you
had their
were you did you
preference.
have Lotus Notes?
Oh God, yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It was, I had taken my preferences from whatever my dad was using at the time, and we were
mm.
like a household that used because you had to install it on a CD or a disk drive. I don't think they had. I'm
You would
trying to
install it
remember.
on the hard drive from a
Yeah, yeah,
CD.
but I'm trying to remember if they were, did they predate CDs? Did I ever have to
Oh, they
install it
definitely
from like a
predated
floppy
CDs.
disk? Yeah, then I probably had to do a floppy, and then we eventually got to a CD. Anyway, so you had to install this thing, and we had copies of it, and I'm sure we had paid for it because that's what you did to software
Hmm.
back then. And we were a WordPerfect household. And I felt it was far superior, as with Netscape, to the common editions that then became the norm. But,
Mm.
was not what ended up happening in the great wars of text editors, I suppose. Anyway, I'm sorry, you're trying to tell me a story about Netscape.
Well, no, I wasn't telling you. I was just curious. I'm
Yeah,
just
no, that's fair.
benchmarking there. Yeah, but like, yeah, I don't know. I asked my wife if she had any interest in switching over, and she was like, in our house, I'm IT, right? So she's like, I mean, her response was basically her nonverbal was, I don't care. Like if you put it,
Sure.
as Rodney said, if you put it so that when I click on the thing, it's there, like I'm going to use it. And
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's interesting. Like I have genuinely gotten more and more annoyed with the Google results, and I don't know how much of that is old man yelling at the moon, and how much of that is like it from a productivity perspective. Like it feels like from a productivity perspective, I'm doing more work to get to the results that I need to see.
Mm.
That, and I feel like everything's like returning me Reddit threads, which is a whole nother.
Interesting. Is that a bad? So in my world, those are actually like the most reliable source of information I tend to be able to find for like product reviews or for like weird tech thing that isn't in Stack Overflow, but someone wants to know if they saw it this one time. That is a reliable source of information. Is it not in your world?
I find it very hit and miss.
Hmm.
And because of the way Reddit is set up, when I look through, but like it's also like digging for me, I feel like the actual presentation of Reddit is annoying.
Hmm.
And so it's one of these things where it's like if it really is what I need is in Reddit, the AI summary is doing a poor job surfacing it. And then when I go look at Reddit, like a lot of times I feel like I'm not. And like I know how to read a forum. like I know how to read through the stuff.
It's a
And I just
dying skill right there.
it's yeah, like I mean, so it's not to say that Reddit's useless by any means, right? I mean, like that version of things has always been useful, right? I mean, I started when it was Slashdot would have been,
Wow. It's a callback. Okay.
yeah. I don't even know if that's still around anymore, but like, so like I absolutely like those forums, but at the same time, I think Reddit has a lot of noise to it, and the AI
Yes.
summary isn't particularly helpful most of the time. So generally, if I'm looking for something, I probably want a level deeper than Reddit's going to give me.
That's fair.
I think that's probably the challenge that I run into.
I have had, sorry, just using AI as a search engine. I do not do it often. When I do it, I have had good luck with it as like an aggregator. Like find me, tell you this. We recently got engaged, and as part of that, we are looking for we're custom building a ring, and as part of that, I am looking for a very specific type of stone. You know me, I take the hardest path to something because why take the easy approach? And in order to do that, finding jewelers who make this very custom stone or who stock rings that have this very custom stone has been very difficult. What it was very good at was I could say, hey, I want a jeweler who does platinum rings with kite sapphires of this color and also have like, florals in them. And then it went out and found me 8 of those and said, you should try these sites. Because all that I had been finding when I was searching around was these basically drop shipping sites who didn't have anything. And what I could then do is say, okay, take these results and cross-reference them with posts from Reddit, from the engagement rings subreddit, and filter out any that have negative results and
Sure.
give me back only the ones that have very positive results and then find others that are like that, right? And so basically like do a cross-reference and enhance that would have taken me forever to do on my own.
That's
Sure.
incredibly useful. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Anyway, I'm a fan of Reddit now, but only as fed to me by an
Only
AI.
with like a multi-layered like
Correct.
search, yeah, leading into it. So I feel like we should talk about markets a little bit, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no,
Or
good
Rodney, do you
time.
not want to talk about? So Kathryn, you, as you're deeply aware, December live cattle futures have been at record highs.
Naturally. Tell me.
So so live cattle futures, right? So beef has been at record highs, and it keeps going up. And so
I
I
did
started dooming
actually know this. Yes.
I started doom and glooming it about 2 months ago because I was talking to a buddy of mine who was like who's also been on the podcast and was like, this is crazy how high this
Wait, is
is.
this the shape of what you do in every single one of these shows? You just like talk about nonsense for like an hour and a half, and then you're like, but now let's talk about markets.
I don't
This
know
is
that it's the
wild.
shape of
It's a
everything we
wild
do.
show.
Um,
So
and
proud
it,
to have been on this. This is great.
well,
Tell me about cattle features.
yeah, so you guys can see this, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I think we started talking about it. It must have been, this is the week. What is this? No, let me switch to weekly. Hold on.
Yeah, it was like May.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we talked about it when it did this.
Yeah.
Or one of these big down weeks was when we
Yeah.
first started talking about it. And it's continued to race up, basically. Like where you can see we're still at all-time highs. So just to be clear, like Kathryn, just for context, this is literally the highest this futures contract like has ever been, ever in decades, right, of history. So you should expect beef
If you
prices to
were
go up.
explaining this to me like I was a 5-year-old, what is causing this increase in cattle futures?
So that's part of the challenge is people aren't really so there's a all right, so well, let me just finish talking about the chart. I'll come back to that.
Sure.
But so Gabe's still wrong in terms of calling a high.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens because I've said this fall is when I think it's gonna be a rough macroeconomic season this fall, and so we'll see what happens. But right now, live cattle still going strong. In terms of what's causing it, I believe the narrative is basically this focus on protein, like eating protein just in the U.S. becoming more and more. I mean, it's even happening in my house, right? My wife. Now it's borderline comedic because if you look at whatever calculator, so I weigh 300 pounds, right? So like the amount of protein I'm supposed to eat is insane. I should be eating like multiple chickens every day or something crazy. Um, by the way, though, I do want to call it. So I'm on these GLP meds, and so Ronnie, the beginning of the year I was 355, and last week was my first week under 300.
Ah, congrats, man.
Dang,
Yeah.
We only
congrats.
get
So
the like chest up view. I haven't seen you full.
I don't. Well, here's the funny thing. I don't look a lot different. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't actually feel a lot different. So I'm glad I've got the data behind it. Like, I can wear my larger 2X shirts now with like less embarrassment. So that's great. But that's the most practical thing I have. Like, and that's part of the reason why it got so high is like it just I don't I am literally big boned, right? Like and so I can carry quite a bit without it being noticeable.
Sure.
So that's down whatever 15% or so. We'll see what happens. But it's the lightest I've been since before we had kids.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
congrats.
Is it due to the increase in protein in your diet in your household?
No, absolutely not. It's entirely due to the drugs. The drugs do an amazing job.
That's what it all comes down to.
So
Yeah.
the protein thing is not really based on your weight. You're supposed to eat as much protein as what you want your lean body weight to be, right?
Well, yeah, but okay, but even my lean body weight, like,
Yeah.
what is it, 250, like 230, somewhere in there?
Well, how much
Yeah.
protein is an entire chicken?
I don't know.
If you're gonna give me a metric in chickens, in
You're right.
number of chickens you should be
That's my
consuming,
bad.
I immediately need to know
I should
more
figure that out.
statistics.
I got it. I'm on that.
Ronnie will find out what the average protein
Thank
yield
you.
per chicken is, and then
Thank
and
you.
then he's
I
going to find out
appreciate
if my my target lean body weight's 250, how many chickens?
How many
should I eat?
chickens do you need to eat?
You should ask ChatGPT.
Yeah. So a whole chicken would be 160 grams of protein.
Okay,
So
I
you
bet it's
need
a
to
chicken
eat
and a half
several whole chickens. Yeah.
Couple chickens.
at
Wow.
least. Anyway, so that's part of it. There's some sort of position that like there's a much fuzzier set of arguments around the actual number of cattle in North America, like, but the average cattle size is like the amount of weight that they're able to put on them these days is much higher than it was 10 years ago. Like, so that's that's a bad number to use, like the number of cattle, number of head. So it does seem like overall there's more demand. The challenge I think is going to be the reason I bring up the macroeconomic thing is so cattle prices have an inverse relate. They actually behave like equities from a macroeconomic
Very
perspective.
exciting. Okay.
So the volatility curve actually looks like an equity volatility curve, and so what I think we're going to see is just like those unemployment numbers we just had that were down a little bit. I think that's going to keep hitting. I hope it doesn't, but I think it will. And I think that will cause a significant capitulation and people being able to. One of the first things you see in a market trending towards recession is people don't pay for high cost protein, which beef is very much in the category of. And so we'll see.
Are we seeing that? Are we seeing a lowering of consumer demand for beef?
Not yet.
No, no, it's off the charts. But I will. But I know. I think we've talked about this in the past. I have definitely. We don't eat much beef here anymore. So we get a quarter beef every year from our parents. Yeah, we don't really go to the grocery store and buy steak right now. We're all chicken and pork for sure.
Because of health reasons or because of price reasons?
Price for sure.
Interesting.
It's off the chart.
We recently, so for the viewers, I live in Texas now. We recently had a barbecue, as one does when one lives in Texas. And my partner came back and was like, "Oh, it's 4 times the price to get an equivalent like
Right.
cut of meat for brisket was like 4 times, we're cooking for a lot of people. So what
Yeah.
I had thought was going to be, $30, $40 was like $100 or something. Like it was insane just for this price, which is the only reason that I now know.
But you bought the brisket anyway.
We did.
That's the
Yes.
thing.
That's
Right.
that's the thing, right? So
I will
that's
say
the
that I
question is
don't know we're a good indicator of like generalized.
right, but that's the thing. So I do think it's like that is what happens right now, right? But and that's why so people generally feel secure from an income perspective, right? If you were worried about your income, you would not have paid a hundred
That's true.
dollars for that brisket, right? You would have
True.
gotten hot dogs or something. Like change of plans, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever. And like that's true across the U.S., right? And so I I'm the cliff notes of what I've been talking about over the last couple months is I think there's with all these deferred exits from federal government as an employer, right? People took these like deferred buyout packages. Those start to hit, I think it's in September. And so I think what we're going to see is people have been getting paid, right? Through then. The summer will be over, and suddenly you're going to have a significant amount of unemployment, and people thought they'd be able to get jobs and they aren't. Like that's my fear. And I like we joke about like I have very much hope to be wrong. Like, but it has like all the makings like with the tariffs and some of this other stuff, like the it's creating a fragile economic environment. So we'll see. That being said, I think the flip side of it is if we get through, the winter through, my timing might be up, but if we get through the winter and it hasn't happened, like it's probably okay, barring some other weird externality. The other one I'll pull up is corn, just because that's
Because
that's
inversely related,
well,
apparently.
yeah, that's relevant. So rough week for corn.
Super
This
rough.
this is December future. So Kathryn, I wouldn't. I think it would be unreasonable for us to expect you to know what break evens are in corn. Rodney, what was break even from a production perspective?
Most guys are running 415 to 480, even some into the $5, really.
Right.
Um,
So let's just say 475, 480. So we
yeah.
haven't seen that for about a year.
So
Yeah.
everyone's negative on their corn that they've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
growing?
There was a
It's
brief
pretty
pop
freaky.
in February if you were on top of stuff, but basically you've been under the gun the entire time. And so there was a belief through here that we wouldn't really go below 425.
That was
And
fun for
then
a
we went
couple
down below
days.
425 a couple times, but snuck back up. I know Rodney, some of you guys took advantage of that when it happened, but then we seem to really turn a corner here. And I assume that's just because production looks pretty solid and
Production
not a
side,
lot
yeah, it
of
looks good.
mystery left.
Do
Catherine, I will tell you though, the good news is we knew for sure up until today that we couldn't break below $4. Like for sure, we're not, it's such a
So I don't,
mental.
I don't, yeah, I don't know if you caught that. The low today is like 398 or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So just
ooh,
blasting through floors.
do commodities markets have like circuit breakers the same way that equities markets do?
They
Yeah, but
do.
they're just daily, and this has been like actually this is the worst part is it's been a kind of slow trend down. Those markets are really hard to sell
Yeah.
into, right? Because it always feels like you could go like correct a little bit. I'm used to, in a fast falling market, a lot of times you'll get like a dead cat bounce out of that, and somebody will say, "Oh, that feels good to sell that." This has been really hard to sell on the way
Mm.
down.
It's been a very traditional bear market, like
Yeah,
just a painful march down. Um,
Do we
yeah,
have time for me to one more tangent?
yeah.
yeah.
Or do we need to? We have been watching, and I think I've now tried to shill this to both of you, and I'm going to make one more plug. We've been watching a lot of Clarkson's Farm, which is the best show ever. It is Jeremy Clarkson of Top Gear, having like purchased his family's farm
And it's
in
like his nephew
England.
or something is like an actual farmer and just calls him an idiot the whole time, right?
It's not even his nephew. It's like a
Just his
local
neighbor.
guy who he just like hired to basically tell him all of the things that he's doing wrong. He is a bumbling idiot in it. And
Yeah.
every single there's I think 5 seasons of this thing now, something like that. Every single year, without fail, it is like the market is disastrous for whatever crop he has said is like this is going to be our year for blah, 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 blah. It's disastrous across the board. You know, they've had the wettest year and they've been unable to do something and like they have fungus in the wheat or whatever. And every single season ends with like it's terrible. But maybe next year. And there's always this like curve of like it'll be fine just for next year, which
Yeah.
I feel like is like every time we would talk about commodities markets back when we were all working at Indigo was like, well, it's really terrible now, but like don't worry, it's going to turn the corner. Like don't worry, it'll be fine. Don't worry, it won't go below $4, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel
Right.
I'm
There,
stressed for you guys. Not even being in this world anymore.
well, I mean, so to be fair, there is a cyclicality to commodity prices, like, and so it's not that the hope that exists isn't completely irrational. Um, Although, we talked to a guy, Nate Roberts, who you would never have met. He did not work at Indigo,
Whoa. All
but
right,
he worked
proud of
at
you.
Not
Cargill.
100%.
And so Nate was, as we hit on there, is one of the more, if not the most disciplined marketer as a farmer that I've ever known. And he basically does the same thing every year, which is he starts selling next year's crop about 3 months ago, um, and and has gotten basically he's gotten over the fact that it can be really frustrating to miss out on the highest prices. But like if he's doing it now, he's setting a solid. It's actually just standard portfolio management stuff, right?
Yeah.
He's sucking out risk now at
Yeah.
levels that are acceptable to the business, and then he'll on the tails he'll get whatever gains or losses come from that.
He's
But
just dollar cost averaging. Like he's
It's
just
a
doing the
risk
thing. Yeah.
management approach. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I mean, but the other thing that for me, what that tells me is like it's not really about being hopeful. Like he can sell right now at levels that he thinks are profitable for next crop year. Right now, there are things that could throw that off. Input prices could go through the roof unexpectedly. Totally could happen. So he's not selling 80% of his crop right now, right?
Sure.
He's
Yeah.
he's selling a little bit, locking in
What's
some
the
of those prices.
hedge?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's
I know
so
stuff.
this goes back to it's not actually a hedge. It's actually, well, it is a hedge, but it's like it's you start long and he is taking risk off the table, right? So that is the hedge, absolutely. But it's like he's pricing the grain, right? He's removing the exposure. Um, so the other thing is like he won't go back and like buy back those positions, right? So he's actually like priced and done in his head. Um,
Yeah.
so I think there's data driven reasons to be hopeful. Certainly, some of that hope is driven by irrationality as well. But yeah, and but it's just been incredibly difficult. Like
Yeah.
if you hadn't pulled the trigger in February, like you missed it, and so yeah. Um,
Yeah. Hey, so two things before we close. One, Catherine, that show that you're talking about is
Yeah.
a caricature of what
It's
actually happens on
incredible.
camera. So I've seen a few
Shh, don't
episodes.
tell me that.
I swear what they did is they told this guy like these are all the bad things that happen on the farm, like and stupid stuff. So the one that really stuck with me that I was like, oh, this is just a caricature, is he buys the tractor that won't fit in the shed,
Correct.
right? You saw that one. That's how it starts. Like every farmer has some version of that for sure. But it's not like I just bought a $300,000 tractor that won't fit in a $10,000 shed. Like that was the dumbest shed ever. Some old stupid shed. So I swear they just take all those things and package them,
Yeah.
together.
I mean, there's definitely a like he does nonsense for the plot of it. Like,
Right.
totally understand that. However, it is these days my only exposure to
Sure.
like what are the markets doing as a whole and what are we've watched now the show through COVID and like crazy environmental swings. And so it's my level of exposure 1 year later to like what were the markets doing
Yeah,
around these like events that were happening in the world.
that's right. The other thing I wanted to add on the side of positivity here, if there is any such a thing, we're actually getting down into safety nets, right? So Farm Bill has some safety nets built in where if we get down to a certain revenue number, you start to get a payment to offset that. Crop insurance, similar deal. As price comes down, as revenue comes down, you can make yourself whole again. So guys that were able to sell into this rally or into this uh, opposite of a rally,
So as the
free,
market went down, yeah.
yeah, they're sort of to a point now where um, they'll start to increase revenue again if they have enough sold, kind of regardless of what the price is, right? Because on the way down, they can start to double dip if you've got something sold. The other thing that's going on is yields are really strong across the country. I mean, crazy strong. Somebody told me today that Georgia is harvesting like 220 bushel corn right now, which is the craziest thing I've ever. They don't even know what to do with it. Like they're just not, it's like probably double what they
Lighting it on
probably.
fire, throwing
Yeah,
it in
like
the
they don't know what to do
sun.
with it.
Yeah.
So what's going on is the yield, right? I'm like doing a matrix because I've done this out. Like
Sure.
the yield is obviously given more bushels to sell here as well. The ultimate result of all of this is today, where we sit today, Gabe, at like 401 and a quarter December futures is literally the worst case scenario for a farm operation, right? So we're like just above where those programs start to kick in. If we go 2 cents lower, it's probably actually better for the farmer, right? Because of, all the byproducts.
They'll kick off. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Um,
that's the latest challenge that we got to figure out how to market around.
you always saw weird stuff. So cotton is like notorious for kind of the government programs around cotton
Mhm.
prices and all that kind of stuff. And so you'll see weird things happen as cotton prices dip down. Like it'll just behave really oddly, and it's people playing some of those subsidy games. I'm curious if it'll be happy. I have the luxury of not being my income no longer tied to corn markets, so it'll be interesting to watch what happens if we do get below those levels. Like if it starts to get really slammed, or is it going to get just held here at this
Yeah.
painful price? Yeah.
So I hear, in the grain markets, a lot of people talk about, well, I'll say that the market tries to cause the most pain as possible to the farmer. Like that's a kind of a standard thing. And you hear people say like, oh, they're gonna stand on this spread until the farmer bleeds out, right? Like that kind of language is like, hey, the market is here to slay the good guy in the commodities market. Is that a thing in the equities market? Like, or is
Uh,
that completely foreign? I mean,
I mean, so
game.
the idea that the market itself has a that it has a personality is yes, that is something that exists, but it's also wrong, just like it's wrong in corn,
Sure.
right? I mean, so,
Wait,
so
are
go
there
ahead.
meme stocks in commodities? Like, is that a thing that exists? Because that's the personality that I would say the equities
Mm,
market has that the commodities definitely does not. Okay.
no, there are no meme stocks. I mean, I guess I don't know. Rough rice might be a meme stock. Uh, there
Not
you can certainly find very low liquidity commodities that have big swings like a meme stock would, but they don't generally have as far as I know, the social media
Yeah.
structure around it. They just, which to be fair is like most stocks that are become meme stocks are they either are have had a lot of direction one way, and so basically there's a lot of people in a position. So I'm going to tell you, well, you guys know this, but like, so most trading algorithms, overly simplified, rely on running averages. So as the markets either go one way or sit still, the trading indicators tend to so if it's going down, you can imagine a running average going down, 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 and then when the market crosses back above that, people start to buy and it goes up, right? Or the other way around, right? If it's going up, 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 up. Or if nothing's happening, what happens is those trading algorithms want to trade and they start to move closer and closer and closer to a market that isn't volatile. And so in those meme stocks, what's happened is they've either been really directional or there hasn't been a lot going on, and then suddenly somebody and they're light liquidity, and so somebody's able to drive them through, kind of start to break through some of those levels that triggers the algos, and then there's a momentum thing that happens. So you can certainly see that in low liquidity commodities like rough rice.
Yeah.
But I think that's the personality for me. Like the part of the meme stocks is like it's the little guys who are like buying these stocks that have either low liquidity or like low prices against the like big guys, against the corporations, against the hedge funds, right? And so it's this the equities market is the vehicle for the like little guys to one up the big guys. Like
Mhm.
that's sort of the personality that it feels like, at least from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, it's like I view the equities market as super boring, right? I just like I don't look at it every
Not
day.
enough complication for you.
I just
I'm
put my
sorry
money
you can only
there.
buy and sell things, Rodney.
Like I
Like,
don't think I'm gonna outguess it. It's just like this offensive play where I'm like, hey, I'll put money away. It's gonna grow 4 to 12% and everything's gonna be fine. But when I think about the futures market, it's like total defense all the time. Like, how is this thing gonna, ruin my way of life? It's a definitely a different
That's because
beast.
well,
more of
because it's
your direct income and your community's income is tied to it, right? Like if you were on Wall Street, you would care, and living in like in downtown Manhattan, you would care, or the Upper East Side or whatever, you would care about what the equity market is doing because
well,
it would
there's an
directly
extra
affect you.
and there's an extra component to it, right? The commodities market is like somebody is going out and doing the corn, and then we are also trading on the corn. It would be like if you were like, oh yeah, I need to go work at Target, and therefore I also care about like what the Target stock is doing, and I have to guess what it's doing while having a deep investment in that place.
Yeah,
There's not that like secondary component. We're just trading on the stuff. Sort of
yeah,
a pure.
It's removed. There's
Yeah,
little,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But look, I mean, we always used to say, like, if you if the market will teach you when you are too arrogant.
yeah,
But that was something we would say about any market, right? It was not just a commodity one. I mean, and like, so I think there's an illusion. The farmer is such a small part of the act of the futures, especially for like corn and beans. Like,
yeah,
then the actual volume flowing through, like the farmer is such a trivial amount of that. The idea that somebody thinks like the farmer actually doing something is going to matter, like, like on a macro level, the number of acres planted, right, and yields and all that kind of stuff, absolutely. But like as a trader and taking positions, the farmer is inconsequential in the futures market.
yeah,
And so it's not about that, right? It is more about funds and trends and those types of things. And so like and this is what we're talking, like the market doesn't, we often talk about the market doesn't care what it costs you to grow the crop. Like nobody cares what it costs you to grow the crop except you, like
yeah,
actually, which it's not right or wrong, it just is. And so these are massive funds trading against each other, not, pick the biggest farmer in the world, like they round to zero, right?
yeah,
Like,
for sure. Hmm.
so
Kathryn, congratulations on being a part of the longest episode
yeah.
we've aired. It was
I'm so sorry.
no, man, it's super fun catching up with you. It's been too long. Uh, anything you want to pitch on the way out the door? Anything you are doing? I saw you on a
Other
podcast at some point.
Clarkson Farm, we got that.
Clarkson's
Clarkson
Farm.
Farm.
I showed Clark, but then Rodney told me it's all puff pieces.
It's
So
such garbage.
you know
Yeah.
do,
what?
do
Sometimes
your
I watch
penetration
garbage.
testing if you
Do
have
your penetration
if you
testing.
have
Yes, please
applications
do
or a
your
database.
yearly security testing. And please do it more often than yearly because stuff comes out like overnight and you are not prepared for these things.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think everyone should be at least experimenting a little bit with AI. Not, you don't need to use it. You don't need to like be good at it. You don't need to like it. You do need to know what it is because somebody's going to talk to you about it or do something that you don't expect. You don't want to be caught off guard.
Yeah.
So that's my pitch.
Cool. All right, Gabe. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, TK.
Didn't even explain that. It was lovely to see you both.
Love
Thanks
to
so much
see
for your
you.
time.
See you. Bye.